Okay, I am going to get started and welcome, Brian. Yes, it is cold in Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Christine Townsend, founder of PIO Toolkit. I know I don't sound like I'm from Texas, but I'm working on it. I want to thank you all for attending today. I'm really pleased to have a great panel today because I've seen the start of credentialing from its kind of birth almost, and to see how it's grown is fantastic. And so we couldn't talk about it without having Ashley McDonald with us. We'll come to her shortly. But Kendrick, and just in the nick of time, Gloria has appeared as a vision on our screen. Thank you both. So Kendrick, would you mind just telling me who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. My name is Kendrick Alexander. I'm a police sergeant with the Cary Police Department in Cary, North Carolina. I'm also the public information officer for the department as well. So I handle all internal and external messaging that goes out. My role is somewhat unique here in Cary because of the working relationship that we have with the fire department. I'm also the PIO on call after hours for both police and fire. So I kind of cover both departments after hours as well. But that's what I do.
Well, wonderful. I must say, you don't look tired enough to be on call for both departments. But, Gloria, thank you for joining us also. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background about who you are, where you're from?
Well, my name is Gloria Rabinsky, and my current position is Records Manager for the Highlands County Board of County Commissioners. However, I have been a PIO for around 20 years, and now I belong to the Florida deployment team. Wonderful. In my career as a PIO, I work with both fire EMS as well as with the governmental side, the regular departments such as collection, solid waste, engineering, road projects, and things like that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, both of you. I just want to say before we get started, we take questions throughout. If you've never been on a conversation before, we are pretty much unscripted, so we like to see where it goes. And so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get through them as we can. And I'm pretty sure you will have some questions today because this is the best time to ask them. And without further ado, I'm going to ask Ashley McDonald to introduce herself for those who don't know Ashley, and tell us why you're here, please.
I'm here because Christine loves me. I'm just kidding. But she does love me, but that's not why I'm here. I am the PIO representative, the commissioner representing PIOs on the Commission on Professional Credentialing, which is what we're here to talk about today. So I'm super excited to be on here with two of my fellow credentialed PIOs. Christine asked me to share a little bit sort of about the backstory, and I'm going to give a nod to a couple of people that need to be mentioned who are responsible for this. One of them probably Fancy, what we would call.
Oh, we are losing Ashley a little. Okay, I'm going to.
Is it better?
You're kind of there. Keep trying, and if not, then it's over to Kendrick and Gloria.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes. There we go.
Okay. It's probably the cold weather here. My internet's probably frozen. Anyway, started with just a group of PIOs basically commiserating about everything going on in 2020, and a lot of us felt either burned out or like we didn't have any value in our organization, or that we did have value but nobody was seeing that. And so then we started a focus group talking about things that we could do to promote what we do in a way that's more than just putting a few letters behind your name. So what we did, we started this focus group, and rather than start from scratch, I reached out to a colleague of mine, and he's actually on this call, Chief Brian Goss from Brentwood, Tennessee, who was affiliated with the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and said, hey, do you think they would want to be the host organization for a PIO professional designation? and they gave us a bunch of hoops to go through and a bunch of things that we had to do to submit a proposal. I'll speed this up by saying we submitted the proposal in October of 2020. It was finally approved in December of 21 by the board. We started in January of 22 creating the credential, the eligibility requirements, the technical competencies, the application, and the process. And then in November of 22, it went live. And currently we have 57 professionally designated public information officers. We'd love to see that number creep up.
I think that's amazing, really, when you think about how quickly you turn that around and then how many have gone through the process. Would you perhaps talk a little bit about the process and the benefits of going through it? Because I'm sure that there are some misconceptions maybe about the fact that you kind of, some people have said, you know, that they thought that you had to have all the experience before you go through it. Well, you don't actually have to do that, do you?
So there are two different pathways to achieving your credential. One of those is category A. So somebody who has been in the position for a long time, somebody who's received a lot of training, they're probably more eligible for category A, which the only difference is category B is gives you a little bit more wiggle room on your time and role, but your education weighs heavily, and then you have to write to some technical competencies. You can actually go to cpsc.org and find out anything you want to know as far as credentialing, you know, what that means, who's eligible, the process. But it is an application process. It does take a little bit of time. And I suspect that's why we only have 57 PIOs right now, because we're also busy. It takes time for you to just like go behind closed doors, and we know we don't get to do that often, but to fill out your application. The benefit, most people probably don't know the difference between a certification and a credential. The certification is just what it says. It's a certificate. So when we go through a master PIO course, we get a certificate at the end of that. And sure, we can put MPIO behind our name, but it's just saying that we completed a course. Credentialing is a more holistic view in which we say, okay, these are the types of education that we've had completed. These are the types of certifications that we've completed. These are our technical competencies. Here's our professional contributions to the field, our affiliations. So if we're with National Information Officers Association or NAGC, 3CMA, and also like our professional development goals, because really what we're trying to do here with professional credentialing is inspire people in these professional roles to continue their education and to continue their professional development and to really make solid contributions to the field.
I think it's worth noting as well that it's not just for the US either, is it? It's internationally. It's
internationally recognized, yes. Thank you for saying that. And if I was going to sum it up in any way, Christine, just to say, like, you know, I can tell somebody all day long how wonderful I am. I would never do that. I would like to think I'm more humble than that. But, you know, it holds a lot more weight if somebody that's well respected tells you, oh, Ashley's this great person. She's done these things. You know, this is a third party attestation to everything that you've done in your career.
I suppose you could call it like a peer review, really, of all the work and experience and skills you've got.
And that's a part of the process. When you apply, then you'll be contacted by a peer reviewer, and they'll go through your application with you. If you are missing any component, they'll try to help you get it up to par, and then you'll be voted on by the commission.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for that background. I think because we've got two people that have gone through it, I think we'll start with Kendrick. If you could go through, well, firstly, why did you decide to do it, and maybe talk a bit to how it was going through that process?
Sure. I first learned of it after speaking with one of our fire chiefs, Fire Chief Matt Jacoby, who is if you know Chief Jacoby, he is a phenomenal person to work with and a wealth of knowledge and resource. He's the first one who told me about the credentialing for PIOs that was coming up. And he agreed to sit down with me, and we spent a good hour, sitting in his office, just talking about what the credentialing process was, what it meant. And for me, it's because it is primarily a fire service, but now it's open to anyone in public information realm. That helped me coming from the law enforcement side of things. So now, having gone through it, when I interact with a battalion chief or a fire engine captain, I have that sort of third person saying, yeah, Kendrick's gone through this process. He knows what he's doing. He is a wealth resource to you. And it is that icebreaker for me when I'm dealing with my counterparts on the fire side. I was able to get credentialed through category A. I was fortunate enough that someone in my region on the state side had gone through the process as well. And he agreed to sit down with me and to talk about what his experience was going through the credentialing process. And the thing that I found, particularly with the category A side of it, was I have the experience. It was just a matter of me pulling all of that together and putting it into the application format. That way, once my peer review came up, everything was there. My peer review lasted maybe 30 minutes of just going through my application and my reviewer looking at it and saying, yes, everything's here. Let's tweak the wording in this one section to be a little bit more clarifying as to what you have. And it was submitted and it went through. So for me, it was a matter of just taking the time and compiling everything together into that application, because it does take some time to pull all that together, particularly if you're looking at 5+ years of experience. You may have to dig for some of that stuff. And so that was the most time-consuming part for me.
So on that, what would you say from beginning to end, from getting that envelope through the door saying that you got it? How long did that take?
See, the application process for me, it took me maybe a week to compile everything together to complete the application and format it. Once I submitted it off, it did take a few weeks for the peer review to come through, but it wasn't it wasn't like 8 months. It wasn't anything like that. It was a matter of weeks before it came through.
Okay, well, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to ask Gloria about, why did you go through this, Gloria, and what was your experience of actually putting together all the information you needed for the application? We seem to have lost Gloria. We'll come back to Gloria. Ashley, we'll go back to you about the actual process, because in your experience, is there a wide range of length of time that this could take for some people, or is it a relatively quick process? Because I know a few people think like it takes months to go through this. What would you say to people around time on this?
I would say, so Kendrick and I had it rough, and I don't remember if Gloria did this before it went into a cloud-based application, but our application process took a little bit longer probably than what it actually takes somebody now. I will say it takes a solid, like he said, the most time consuming thing is getting all your certifications together, all your trainings together, thinking through your professional development goals, getting together the things like your professional contributions. Some people do keep up with, and now I have a spreadsheet. So now, my secret, it actually came also from Chief Goss, because he knows all things credentialing and accreditation, and said, hey, this makes it easier for renewal time. But not everybody keeps up with, I've spoken at these many, this many places. I have written these many articles, those sorts of things. But now you can kind of keep up with that and make your renewal process easier. But it just takes time to get the information together and really truly sitting down, thinking about it, filling it out. I would suggest even before it gets submitted that you have a peer of yours, either myself or somebody else that's in this group, to look at it. And, if you have any questions before you submit it. And then once it's submitted, they're pretty quick now about having the peer reviewers go through their process. And then again, Kendrick, he was in the olden days when we only met like every so often to vote on it. But now the commission actually votes monthly. So you don't have to wait quite as long. And you will know that day, the day that all the votes are in, you will know that day if you've gotten the credential.
Cool. And I will wait for Gloria. Hopefully she'll be able to come back shortly. You mentioned about, getting the evidence together. What does that consist of? What can count towards this?
So your certifications, you're not going to have to submit every single certificate that you've ever had. If you've gone through any of the courses, like the Master PIO courses, either through FEMA, which now it's the Natural Disaster, I'm going to get it so wrong, Natural Disaster and Emergency something University. Anyway, NDEMU, there we go. Emergency Management University, there you have it. And now that's been changed to the Executive Public Information Officer program. But if you have those, you have to have your college transcripts. I'm trying to think of what else you might need.
You
Everything else
and speaking. You mentioned
so
about
you won't have to submit, right? You won't have to submit proof of your article writing or your, a news release or something. That may actually be something coming down the pipeline in future iterations of the application process. But right now, you don't have to, prove those things. We would hope that everybody's being honest. You do have to sign an attestation document, saying everything that's in this packet is true, to the best of my knowledge. So.
Well, great. Gloria's back with us. Hooray. All good things happen on live TV. Gloria, we were just talking about the process and perhaps, your experience may be slightly different to Kendrick's because your background and what the sort of the work you've done. How did you find going through the process of actually putting together all your evidence and actually applying?
Well, at the beginning, once you see the application package, it may look a little bit intimidating, but once you start going through it, you'll see that it is not as bad as it looks. And if you have the qualifications and if you have your certificates and everything in order, it makes it way.
We've lost Gloria again. And Kendrick, perhaps you'd like to carry on from there with your expertise in being an excellent communicator as you are credentialed. Henrik, could you take with some more information on that?
Yeah, having those certificates in one place is helpful because you already have it compiled. It is the speaking engagements and how you've contributed within the field that may take some thinking. If you've done something and it's been some time since you've done it, you tend to overlook it. But all those things counts. If you've gone and spoken to a church group or a community group or any type of these events, all that stuff can be categorized and counts towards you. And it's sitting back and thinking about all of those small interactions that you've had and all those conversations and those community meetings and all those things. All of that will help you. And that's generally something that most people don't document. They don't write down the date and time of that stuff, but it helps. And like Ashley said, because I've gone through this process, I now do the same thing. I keep notes of when I've done these things so that once I do come up for renewal, I won't have to sit and scratch my head as long as I did the first time around. Good thing I don't have any hair, but it took some time for me to compile all of those dates together for sure.
I think that's, you touched on a really important point there. And it's something that I was always taught in the police is that if it isn't written down, it didn't happen.
Absolutely.
And it was always impressed upon me. And this was more from a court evidence perspective that I had to write down. I had a daily work diary where I had to literally write hour by hour what I'd done that day. As a comms person, and it really saved me a lot of time. And I think it's always worth getting into that habit of just making notes on your day of what you do in work, because like you say, there are so many things you do that you just take for granted that because it's your job that actually, and I'm sure, and I will come to Gloria on this as well, I'm sure when you see it all in front of you, that must be such a great feeling of accomplishment, because you it puts into context what you actually do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And it's looking back into your calendar entries, when someone sends you a calendar invite to come and talk to a group, that can help jog that memory. But it is sort of a, puts your career into perspective when you can sit back and look at it written into a written document that someone's going to review and verify what you've done. It is sort of a sense of pride that you've accomplished what you have.
It's wonderful. Thank you. So Gloria, let's try again. And you were talking about how it does look intimidating at first when you go through the process, but actually it seemed quite straightforward once you got into it.
Yes, once you start, it's very straightforward. Like he was saying, if you are organized and you have all of your certificates and documents in order in one place, it makes it so much easier because then you have all the information. And trying to document also all of your events that you participate on, that if you have some sort of like a diary, that helps. And for me, it was a little easier because I already had a master's from FEMA. So because of that, it kind of shortened the process a little bit, but it is not as intimidating as it looks. That's basically what my main thing. It's not as intimidating as it looks. And there's many of us that are willing to help those that are starting the process. They just need to reach out, and I know we'll be just more than happy to assist.
Fantastic, thank you. And what would you say for you has been the biggest benefit to come out of doing this process?
For sure, the professional development and the career advancement. Right from the beginning, as soon as I got the accreditation, I got a promotion. The county was able to give me a pay increase because they were able to now have something that proved my background, to call it something. And so that's from that aspect. But if where you are at, you don't get that, definitely the career advancement and the professional development that you get out of it. Because one of the requirements is that you need to continue with the education and involvement. So definitely those two.
Yeah, it sounds like a great investment. If you're getting a pay rise the minute you've got it, I mean, that's wonderful, and that's partly what it's designed for. I mean, Ashley, we talked earlier about, I mean, let me rephrase. Some people may feel like they don't have what it takes to get credentialed. What would you say to those people who are maybe young in service earlier on in their career? Like, how can they make the most of this process?
Yeah, I would say, get a copy of the application and use that as a career roadmap. You may not have everything at this time, but at least you know what the eligibility criteria are, and you can, work towards those things. Also, I would say to link up with somebody, that already is credentialed so they can mentor you through the process. I have several people contact me, and I'm happy to answer all kinds of questions, hop on a call with somebody that's going through the process. Love to do that. I just can't write you a reference letter because that's a conflict of interest, but I would have done that too if that wasn't the case. But we just link up with somebody who's already been through the process. That's one of the best ways that you can get the process going, but also just work towards that. And as you're using that as your roadmap, pretty soon down the road, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, then you're like, oh man, I've met all the qualifications. Now I can finally submit my application.
And I think it's important that there is integrity around this, and that it is a conflict of interest. You can't be signing letters for everyone, because then that kind of undervalues the whole process. So this really is like, it was made difficult for a reason. Well, not difficult, but it was made.
And I'm not a peer reviewer either for that reason. So I don't, formally, review somebody's application. I'll do it if just to try to help somebody before they submit, but I don't review after it's submitted.
We've got a question from Mindy. What would evidence look like for those PIOs who don't have much public interaction? Because there are those that don't go and do news conferences or interviews and things like that. So, how can you balance out that evidence?
So probably what I would say is you're probably most likely going to go category B. You will talk about, training that you've had, experiences that you've had in your technical competencies, and make references to those things. You will, once you go through the peer review process, that peer reviewer has training that can help you start to think of things that maybe you didn't think of before. When we were talking earlier about the community engagement piece, that's not just in your role as a public information officer. If you volunteer for the American Red Cross, if you teach if you volunteer for a ministry in your own church, different things in your community, those things count too. So a lot of times there are things that you don't necessarily think about in the moment, but that somebody who's been through the process or somebody who serves as a peer reviewer can give you some information to kind of trigger that. Oh, well, I did do that. Oh, yes, I do have that. A lot of times we can find you a pathway.
And you could argue that social media is public interaction anyway. It's just in a different format. So
yeah, and if you do a newsletter for your department, or podcast, just things like that, just contributions.
Wonderful, thank you. Hopefully that's helped, Mindy. And if anyone's got any other questions, please do put them in the chat. Ashley is here for a reason, and that's to be grilled and ask lots of questions that are very difficult. So you mentioned about there are other people, like to speak to other people who've gone through the process. Do you offer a way to kind of pair people up with people if they don't know anyone?
So yes and no, we don't. It's funny because we're actually going through our business plan right now as a commission. And one of the things that was brought up was having a more formalized mentoring program. We do have mentors, we do connect people. There's just not a formal process for that. But if you go to cpsc.org and you email, our project coordinator, program coordinator, Mike Higgins, he can connect you with somebody. I'm also offering up, I'll put my email in the chat. Please feel free to email me. If I can't do it or don't have the capacity to do it, I will get you somebody great to help you through it.
Wonderful, thank you. And I want to kind of go back to Kendrick, if I may. Kendrick, do you feel that it helps you with your legitimacy, because you work for two departments who have two, probably fire and police have probably they do butt up against each other sometimes. I know this all too well. Would you say that it helps you kind of give an even playing field with them understanding what you're capable of and kind of getting you more of a seat at the table that with leaders?
Yes, and I also will count myself extremely fortunate in that here in Cary, police and fire, yeah, we do have that friendly, competitive nature going on for sure. But it's also, we know when to come together as one public safety entity and get the job done. And so for my role and what I do for the police, for the fire department after hours, it's those battalion chiefs know that they can count on me. So if a structure fire happens at 2 a.m. or whatever it is after hours, I have the capacity to send out those initial holding statements and those initial media contacts until that battalion chief can sort of get freed up from their responsibilities in dealing with the scene, and then can break off to do whatever media contact that they need. And I do respond out to the scene if need be, that where I can sort of be on the ground and help out in any way that I can. So yeah, it has built up that legitimacy and that on that front, in that they know that I've gone through the same credentialing process that they go through on the fire side as well. And so we kind of have that icebreaker between us for the most part. But I'm fortunate here in Cary in that we work so well together as it is already, that they already know that by virtue of me being in the position that I'm in and having the blessing of the police chief that I have, that sort of kind of gives me that credibility already. But certainly having gone through this credentialing process, that's just another layer of that confidence in my skill set and what I can do and what I bring to the table for them.
So, and let's face it, both areas of work are heavily based on evidence, police
Yes.
and fire for sure. So I know this all too well. I'm going to hop back to Ashley because we have a question. Thank you, Angela. It's nice to have you here. Angela's asking if she's got 3 years in, and she's wondering is it too early to start her credentialing process?
No, not at all. You will probably be going more toward the category B, and depending upon what your current level of education is, meaning master's or doctorate programs, you may actually be more eligible right now than you think. So I just encourage you to go to cpse.org and go to the PIO credentialing and see, what you already have. And then if you are lacking any of those other things, then just certainly work towards those. Sounds like you're on a good start. We do have a couple of credentialed PIOs in the Colorado area, so I would be happy to connect you with those. If you're open to that, just feel free to email me.
Thank you, Ashley. And on that, actually, are there any states that don't have any credentialed PIOs?
Yes, but I would not be able to tell you which ones those are. We see kind of in the Midwest and the South, we tend to have more, credentialed, and that's in all of the designations. Which I might add, we did a pretty big thing with this PIO designation. It was the first designation that CPSE added to their group of designations in a decade. It was the first to allow civilians to apply and the first to be multidiscipline. And that has since opened the door to other designations. Now they have what's called a FESA. It's a Fire and Emergency Services Analyst. So they actually modeled their proposal for that credential after hours. So we did a big thing here, you guys. It was a big team of people, and it's so exciting what we did. I do want to say, before I forget, because I think it's important, I know everybody's probably thinking, okay, well, is there, do you have to pay? Yes, you do. There is an application fee. It is $325. That's for your initial application. Your renewal, I'm not exactly sure what the exact price is, but you can find that on the website. But you'll renew every 3 years as long as you're in the role, serving in the role. And it's a much less price and a less robust experience. The renewal doesn't take quite as long, it's not quite as time consuming. And hopefully you're keeping up with your spreadsheet like Kendrick and I told you to, and writing down everything throughout the year that you're doing and the courses that you're taking and those sorts of things. I do want to say, though, if finances are a barrier, because I do realize that not every PIO is, their leadership doesn't always see the value in this. We do have some educating to do with a lot of the leadership, particularly in other disciplines besides fire and emergency services, who aren't as familiar with accreditation and credentialing. But right now we have a scholarship program, and it's open for the public information officer credential right now. I hate that we had this so late in the month, but the deadline is February 28th. So if you have time to go and fill out an application, if that price, that $325, is a financial barrier to you or a barrier keeping you from your credential, then please go apply for that scholarship. Like I said, it's open until the 28th of this month. It is similar to the application itself. And then you have a 750 to 2,000 word essay to write. And that question varies based on the designation, but it will be related to public information.
And even so, though, based on what happened with Gloria, that 325 is like, well, there's your investment right there in getting a pay rise. So to me, it seems like a great option. And one thing that I will say that I'm so pleased about it, simply because for all my experience that I've had in the UK, none of it counted to any jobs here that I could use as evidence. So this really helps anyone who's got a background in a different country completely, just make sure that everything counts. And that's what was really interesting to me. And I'm so glad that you've done that as a part of this, that I do have transferable skills. So, that is awesome. So if you do know people, and particularly we do have a lot of Canadian followers that I know would be interested in this as well. So we've got some questions coming in. Thank you, everyone. So do you have to pay up front to access the application, or do you pay when you're ready to submit? You
pay at submittal.
Gotcha.
That's a great question.
And so, Don, hi Don, nice to see you. Is it unreasonable to attempt credentialing for PIO and fire marshal?
No. In fact, and I think I see that Chief Goss has maybe answered, but they have some oh gosh, what do they call it? Crosswalk that you can do for like multi-designations. And then they've really simplified the process so that when you renew one, you can renew them both at the same time now.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jay's made a really good point about if you put the stats up on the website of which states people are from, then it might get some nice competitive.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
We used to have a list of all of the designees, but it got too hard for them to keep up with, which is a good thing. But I think the benefit I can see, Jay, would be to have like a heat map showing, how many, maybe we color code the different designations and then, how many we have in each area. That's a great idea. And I will take that back to the commission.
There you go. See, it's the reason that you come to these things so we can get great ideas. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Now, I would like to kind of go back to Gloria as well. And I'm going through this, Gloria, I know you said you'd already done your master's with FEMA. What was it that stood out to you about doing this in terms of whether it was because it's a great process, because you like the idea behind it, or what was it that you would say is the most impressive thing about the whole project? Really it's amazing really what Ashley and the team have achieved. So what do you love about it?
I think I'll break it in two parts. The first part will be the personal, basically getting the validation of your knowledge and having an entity so responsible like the Center for Public Safety backing that's from the personal part. Then I also think about it from the profession as a whole. Having the credential for the PIOs helped us tremendously, not just us, but the whole profession, helping us bring that credibility, the reputation, the professional development, and just showing that we have what it takes and our profession we need to be right there at the table. So
I couldn't agree more. It's frustrating that it isn't as recognized as it should be as a career, as a profession. I think this goes a long way to do that. And I'm used to having national standards. Obviously I come from a place that's smaller in Texas, so it's a bit easier maybe, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. I do love that it's also open to civilians as well, because I think there is a bit of a them and us in terms of especially in law enforcement, civilian and warranted officers, but also I think it's important to know that it's not just for public safety. Isn't that right, Ashley? Ashley's
yes,
nodding.
I'm sorry, my mouse was going all over the place. I couldn't get it to hit unmute. Yes, it's multiple discipline. So, government, public safety. We always like to joke and say, the PIO for Disney World, which they do have one, and we hope that they will apply one of these days. Hospital PIOs, quasi-government PIOs, the American Red Cross, they have PIOs, so they can, as long as somebody's serving in a capacity, it's a full-time capacity, but it does not matter if it's contracted, if it is volunteer, or if it's paid.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of PIOs get forgotten in kind of, if they're not police, fire, public safety, but also like you say, hospitals, schools, and it doesn't have to be public sector, does it?
It does not. It can also be privately. So I'll say this, I think I said it earlier on the call, we really do have some education to get out there. And, we're really going to rely heavily on our credentialed PIOs to serve as ambassadors to help us get that message across, that it is multidiscipline. So I'm so glad we have Kendrick and Gloria on here to highlight that it's not just fire and emergency services.
Fantastic, thank you. Mindy's asking if other than FEMA trainings, and this is slightly off, and this is away from, you've done all the you've done all kinds of courses. You've taught them, I've taught them, we've all applied, done different things. So Mindy's asking for a public health department, what trainings would you say you can recommend to people other than FEMA?
Let me ask this question, and Mindy, maybe you can type it back fast in the chat, but are you saying because you've already taken the FEMA training, or Can you tell me why not the FEMA? Okay. So let me first and foremost say FEMA training is free. You can go to the National Disaster and Emergency Management University and take that training for free. You can get your advanced PIO, you can get your master PIO. The only thing you're responsible for is your meals. That's the only thing your agency is responsible for. You get the travel there, whether it's a flight or a rental vehicle, you get lodging while you're there. Those are great experiences, just the courses themselves, but the relationships that you make in those classes and the networking is, I can't even say enough about that. It's inexplicable. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to get the free training. I would say start there. You can do a lot of the prerequisites on, that's a terrible word for a Southern girl to have to say, prereqs. You can do those prereqs, a lot of those as independent study. So you can do those kind of on your own time in your office, or, and then you take the basic course. I think they have those all over. So it could even come to a state near you or a city near you. And then the advanced and master courses are on campus. And the advanced course is a week, and the master class, which is now the Executive Public Information Officer program, is a 3-week but non-consecutive, and you do have a research paper. Somebody mentioned that in the chat earlier. Now, there are some public health trainings that are specific. There's even like a credential or a special certification that you can go through. I can't remember what the name of it is, but if I can find it, I'll put that out there. I'll give it to Christine. Maybe she can get in touch with you. But there is one that is specific to health department or health care communicators.
Thank you, Ashley. Hopefully that's answered that, Mindy, for you. I have a quick question for you myself. Does reading my book contribute to evidence for this credentialing? No, I can't. You don't have to answer that. Probably not. I'm going to answer. I have a legit question for you though. Is FEMA training required if you've taken equivalent training through a state office of emergency services? And does the application review process take that into account?
So that's a great question. We're actually in the process, because we're right at the 3-year mark of going through the application, getting some feedback. We're going to have a focus group where we can get information about what they think works well, what doesn't work well. We are going to add, because at the time when we created this program and this pathway, we did not know about some of the other programs that existed. We did some research, but we've since found, there's the UT actually was simultaneously, their Law Enforcement Innovation Center was simultaneously creating that program as we were creating this program. So we were kind of like siloed and didn't know about each other at the time. But since we've learned about them, there's also DINFOS for the military. So it's going to be more so, instead of saying, okay, you have to have EPIO or MPIO from these organizations, FBI, LEDA, those things. It's going to be that or equivalent. And then you'll submit, whatever your certificate is from that specific program. And that way we can kind of see, go through the curriculum and see if, what's covered is similar.
Fantastic, thank you. And I appreciate everyone putting in all these resources here. What I will do is take everyone's list in here, and I will add this. We do have an FAQ on this process on the PIO Toolkit website. So what I'll do, everyone who's attended today, I'll make sure they get the link to all this information. Now we've got a few minutes left, but I don't want to just keep people for the sake of it. But if you have got questions, now's the time to get it in there. Or if there's anything that Ashley would like to add, but perhaps in the meantime, Kendrick, if you pearls of wisdom, I'm sure you have many of them, what would you like to say to any kind of, I know we have some very young in-service PIOs here on the chat. Is there anything that you would say to them if they're just starting out, what they could learn?
The biggest thing that helped me was connecting with other PIOs. And we have a group here locally in my region that we'll get together with PIOs from other agencies and other departments quarterly, and we'll just sit down and talk about what's going on in their areas, what are they finding, that how can we help each other, just different advice, just any way that you can network and connect with folks, that is going to be probably the best thing that helps you. And going to all of these classes, the educational is phenomenal. Yes, it will help you, but everyone will tell you that the biggest value they got was the network, meeting folks and learning and making those connections so that when something happens, you have somebody you can call to come and help you and assist, even if that assistance is virtually. That is probably going to be the biggest nugget that I can give anyone, is to connect with other PIOs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love bringing people together and seeing them connect with each other, whether it's through trainings or doing these things or going, when you go to the conferences and things like NIOA, similar. I think that's absolutely right. It's all well and good learning, reading the books, doing the courses, but if you haven't got the people to back you up and have your back when things are tough, or you just want to ask a question where you don't feel silly, then that's where it really is vital. And I've met so many wonderful PIOs from across the country. So yeah, really good point there. And Gloria, how about you? What advice would you give?
I have to tag along networking, knowing that there's a group of people that have gone through the same training, same background, that understand what you deal with on a regular basis, and having an access to them, because there's a list on the website that shows everybody that has the credential. That to me is very, very important. Knowing that also we have that industry recognition, it helps, but networking, it's for sure number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, and thank you, Gloria, I think it's important to remember that it's an international thing. I always say same problem, different accent. It is amazing to me just how my experiences have mirrored that of Ashley, for example, after the conversations we've had. And you do, like you say, it's a tough job, and it's hard to understand why we do it, for a start, because it's not for the money. And I think having people to talk to in the middle of the night is wonderful, and I enjoy mentoring people all over the place. So, and I'm sure I speak for everyone here, if you need anything, or if you need any support or have any questions, we will always be available to you. I realized I did miss a question from Kim Wheeler. She's got a FBI leader as well as UT and PIO. What other trainings would be needed to get credentialed, Ashley?
And I wish we would have had Chief Goth on here, because he was our eligibility criteria chair for the program
Just
development.
it in the chat, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, good. No, that's okay. But that, kind of like what I was saying, we're in the process of adding some other trainings in there. But really, it's going to be whatever's comparable to the curriculum that's covered in those courses or similar courses.
Wonderful. Do you know what? I'm going to wrap it up very shortly, because I feel like we've put a lot of information out there for people, unless there are any last minute questions. Ashley, I really appreciate you doing this, because I think the work that you and Chief Goss and everyone involved,
and you were a part of the program development.
Well, it's just, I'm incredibly passionate about professional communicators being recognised for the work they do, in the same way that a lawyer would be, in the same way that a chief constable, or sorry, they don't exist here, but you know what I mean. I just think that there's not enough respect for this work, and so this is, to me, is worth doing 100%. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
I would just like to say, kind of like Gloria said, you may be going into it thinking, and hopefully this is kind of squash some of those fears, but you may be going into it thinking, man, this is really intimidating. This is a heavy lift. And it can be, it can feel a little overwhelming, but once you get into the process, as long as you've kind of got everything together going into it, you can kind of take a look at what's required, you get those things together, then you fill it out. The key is just getting it done. Don't think about it. Don't, I'm not close enough yet. Go research that first before you think you're not eligible, because there's a lot of people who may think that at this point, and they actually are eligible based on certain, criteria. Particularly people who have that education component with a master's degree or doctorate. in a field, you know, like communications, journalism, things like that. You know, don't let the fear factor keep you from doing something great. We really would like to be that third-party attestation to all you've done in your career, you know, what the contributions that you've made to not only to your community, but to the field as a whole. And, you know, ask somebody for help. If you're not sure of something, ask somebody for help that's already been through the program, that's already completed the application process, that's already got the credential. You know, ask myself or Chief Goss. I think he was going to put his contact information in the chat. Ask Kendrick, ask Gloria. We're all willing to help. That's one thing that I think I could say to this group, and you understand, is public information officers are kind of like public safety professionals in that we're a family. You know, we want to help each other. We want to see each other succeed. That networking that Kendrick and Gloria both talked about, that you talked about, Christine, it's because we really truly care about our communities. We really truly care about doing a great job in our role. And how better to highlight your passion for that than to go in for this professional designation?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I'll just add to that, experience is also equal to education. So when I started doing this work, I didn't get a degree. I didn't have a college degree. I learned along the way, and it's only when you see it in black and white in front of you that you think, oh yeah, I am capable. So never think you're not capable of doing this, no matter where you are in your career, is what I will say. And Ashley's a tough taskmaster, so you can go to her if you want to get told off on getting on with it, or you can come to me for some fluffy talk. Depends what mood you're in, but we're both available for sure. So I just want to say thank you so much to Gloria, so much to Kendrick, and of course Ashley. Thanks Chief Goss for hopping on, and also thank you to everyone who got involved in this conversation. I really appreciate it. Keep an eye on PIO Toolkit, because we will be having more resources that will help you through this. And you know, as ever, I hope to see you all at the next PIO Toolkit Surgery, and thank you so much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone.